I 19F have been dealing with obvious favoritism from my stepparents towards my stepsister since I was 15. It all started when my mom remarried Robert, 45M, who runs his own accounting firm. His wife Linda, 42F, works as a real estate agent, always dressed impeccably in designer suits with perfect manicured nails. They have a daughter, Ashley, a 19F, who's the same age as me. The first signs of preferential treatment appeared almost immediately after we moved in together. Our house in suburban Connecticut was spacious enough for everyone, but it quickly became clear that Ashley was the princess of the castle. While other parents treat their children equally, my stepparents made sure Ashley stood out in every possible way. The moving day set the tone for everything that would follow. Ashley got the larger bedroom with the bay window and window seat, while I was given the smaller room that faced the neighbor's brick wall. Shopping trips became a painful reminder of my position in the family. Ashley would get new Nike sneakers and designer clothes from upscale boutiques, while I was directed to the clearance racks at Target. The first time this happened, I remember standing in the mall, watching Linda and Ashley disappear into Nordstrom while Robert handed me a $50 gift card for Old Navy. "Get whatever you need," he said, already turning to follow them. That moment burned itself into my memory, the casual dismissal, the clear message about where I stood in the family hierarchy. What hurt more than the material differences was how they treated us during family time. At dinner, Linda and Robert would lean in eagerly whenever Ashley spoke about her day, asking follow-up questions and showing genuine interest. When it was my turn to share, they'd barely look up from their plates, offering only cursory mms, or changing the subject entirely. Once, I tried to share news about winning first place in the school science fair. Before I could finish, Linda interrupted to remind Ashley about her upcoming dance recital costume fitting. The situation with extracurricular activities was particularly frustrating. Ashley was enrolled in every activity she showed even slight interest in: dance classes, piano lessons, art workshops, drama club, and private tennis coaching. When I asked to join the school's debate team, which only required a $100 registration fee, Linda said, "We need to be mindful of the budget." The next day, they signed Ashley up for $200 per hour private swimming lessons because she mentioned liking the pool. Our shared bathroom became another battleground. Ashley's side was stocked with expensive skincare products and makeup from Sephora, while I used drugstore brands bought with my allowance, which was a quarter of Ashley's. Even the towels were different. She had plush, monogram sets while I used the plain ones from the hall closet. When I once accidentally used one of her face washes, she threw a fit that resulted in Linda installing a locked cabinet for Ashley's special products. The academic difference between us became increasingly apparent as high school progressed. I maintained straight A's, while Ashley struggled to keep a B average. But their response to our achievements was bizarrely skewed. When Ashley got a B+ on a history test, there was a celebration dinner at her favorite Italian restaurant. When I got accepted into the National Honor Society, Linda barely glanced at the letter before asking Ashley about her cheerleading practice. Family photos tell the story better than I ever could. In every picture, Ashley is front and center, usually wearing something new and fashionable. I'm always somewhere in the background, wearing whatever was on clearance, looking like an afterthought in my own family portraits. During our junior year photo session, the photographer actually asked if I was a family friend helping out, because Linda had only given him Ashley's measurements and preferences for the shoot. Holiday celebrations became another reminder of my status in the family. During Christmas, Ashley's pile of presents would tower over mine, filled with expensive electronics, designer clothes, and whatever else was trending that year. My gifts were usually practical items: socks, generic school supplies, or gift cards with modest amounts. Last Christmas, Ashley got a MacBook Pro and an iPhone. I got a $50 Target gift card and some discount store sweaters. When I tried to thank them anyway, Linda was already busy filming Ashley's reaction to her new laptop. The contrast extended to how they handled our social lives. Ashley was encouraged to invite friends over anytime, and Linda would prepare elaborate snacks and order pizzas for their gatherings. Once, I asked if I could have 2 friends over to study for finals. "Just keep it down," Linda said, not looking up from her phone. "And make sure they bring their own snacks. We're saving the good stuff for Ashley's cheerleading squad party tomorrow." I've been taking notes on my phone about everything that's happened, and there's so much more to share about how things progressed from here. Especially when it comes to what happened with my mom through all this, and how I eventually found support from an unexpected source. Let me know if you want to hear the rest of the story. It gets more complicated, especially when college preparations began and some family secrets came to light. Things really started to shift during our junior year. I decided I needed some independence and applied for a job at a local coffee shop. When I told them at dinner, Ashley's reaction was immediate. "Oh my God, you're actually going to be a waitress. That's so common." Linda nodded in agreement while slipping Ashley another $100 bill for her weekend shopping. The coffee shop became my sanctuary. For the first time, I had coworkers who actually acknowledged my existence and valued my contributions. My manager, Sarah, noticed my attention to detail and quickly moved me from basic cleaning duties to making drinks. Within 3 months, I was handling the morning rush like a pro. Regular customers would specifically wait in my line, knowing I'd remember their complicated orders perfectly. "You're a natural at this," Sarah would say, while showing me new techniques for latte art. Meanwhile, at home, Linda and Robert continued their pattern of indifference, except when they could use my job as a punchline. "Careful with that plate, Ashley," Robert would joke at dinner. "Don't want you ending up as a waitress." They'd laugh while I silently cleared the table, probably not even realizing the irony of having me do exactly what they were mocking. My junior year also marked a turning point academically. In AP Chemistry, Mrs. Rodriguez often used my lab reports as examples for the class. "Notice how Audrey structured her methodology," she'd say, displaying my work on the projector. "This is university-level precision." I could feel Ashley's glare burning into my back, but I kept my focus forward. After years of being invisible, it felt validating to have my work recognized. One particularly revealing moment came during parent-teacher conferences. Mrs. Rodriguez was reviewing my performance. "Your daughter has a remarkable grasp of complex concepts. She's top of the class, and her lab work shows exceptional promise for a future in scientific research." Before I could even smile, Linda jumped in. "Are you sure you're not favoring her?" It seems like teachers always praise Audrey while ignoring Ashley's unique talents. The tension at home grew thicker with each academic success. Every A+ I brought home seemed to trigger an equal and opposite reaction from my step-family. They'd quickly dismiss my achievements and pivot to celebrating Ashley's latest participation trophy or C+ that she'd worked really hard for. Then came the night that changed everything. I was heading to the kitchen for water after finishing my calculus homework when I overheard Linda and Robert talking in their study. I normally ignored their late-night conversations, but Robert's words stopped me cold. "Sometimes I wonder if we made a mistake," he said, his voice heavy. "What do you mean?" Linda asked. "Having both of them. Ashley would have been enough. She's everything we could want in a daughter, but Audrey, she's just there. We would have been fine with just Ashley." The glass almost slipped from my hand. I caught it just in time, but my heart wasn't as lucky. Everything crystallized in that moment. Years of trying to earn their love, of hoping things would change, all seemed so foolish now. They didn't want me. They never had. I was the unwanted addition, the extra burden they wished they didn't have to deal with. After that night, something shifted inside me. I stopped seeking their approval and instead focused entirely on my studies. Without the constant strain of trying to please them, my mind cleared in ways I never expected. My grades, already good, became exceptional. Perfect scores became my norm, not that they noticed or cared. "Excellent analysis, Audrey," Mr. Peterson said one day in AP English, holding up my essay on The Great Gatsby. "Class, this is exactly the kind of deep thinking I'm looking for. Your comparison of Gatsby's invented identity to modern social media personas is particularly insightful." I could feel Ashley tensing beside me, her pencil tapping aggressively against her desk. I kept my eyes forward, but I could see her face turning red from the corner of my eye. Similar scenes played out in other classes. In AP History, my analysis of the Cold War earned me an invitation to a prestigious essay competition. In Physics, my experiment design was selected for the state science fair. It didn't matter which subject, the more the teachers praised my work, the more Ashley seethed. The breaking point came when Mrs. Rodriguez asked me to tutor other students in chemistry. Your explanations are often clearer than mine, she said with a laugh. Would you consider leading some study sessions before the AP exam? That evening, I heard Ashley's voice from downstairs, Mom, the teachers are being mean to me. They always praise Audrey and make me look bad. They're doing it on purpose. The next day, Linda stormed into school, designer handbag swinging, heels clicking against the linoleum floors. I watched from the hallway as she marched into Principal Williams' office, where they'd called in Mrs. Rodriguez. I want to know why your teachers are discriminating against my daughter, Linda demanded. Mrs. Rodriguez stayed calm and professional, pulling out our progress logs and laying them side by side. Here are both girls' records. Audrey consistently scores in the top percentile in all subjects, while Ashley. Are you suggesting my Ashley isn't smart? Linda interrupted, her voice rising. Not at all, I'm merely pointing out that Audrey's academic achievements. But no amount of evidence could convince her. When she came home that day, I overheard her telling Robert that the teachers were obviously prejudiced against their precious Ashley. By this point, I was tired of asking for pocket money and watching Ashley get hundreds of dollars just for existing. My coffee shop job wasn't just a sanctuary anymore, it was my ticket to independence. I'd started saving every penny I could, opening a separate bank account that Linda and Robert didn't know about. The regular customers' tips, which they'd often increase after learning I was saving for college, went straight into that account. But even this small victory couldn't go unchallenged. Ashley made a point of coming in with her friends, ordering complicated drinks and then loudly commenting on how sad it was to see people stuck serving coffee. They'd leave their empty cups on the table, often deliberately spilling drinks to make more work for me. My coworkers noticed and started taking their orders instead, but the message was clear, I wasn't even allowed to succeed at a job they considered beneath them. Then I remembered something I'd overheard years ago, a heated phone conversation where Linda had yelled, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. You're embarrassing with your tiny house and budget clothes. I've moved up in the world. She'd been talking to her parents, my grandparents, the ones I'd never met because they weren't good enough for her new lifestyle. That evening, while Linda and Ashley were at another shopping spree, this time for Ashley's pre-graduation wardrobe refresh, I snuck into Linda's home office. In her address book, under D of 4, Do Not Contact, I found it, an address in the older part of town. Looking at that address, something stirred inside me, a mix of hope and anxiety. These were my grandparents, people who might actually want to know me, to see me as more than an unwanted addition to someone else's perfect family. I've decided to visit them tomorrow after my shift at the cafe. The address is only a few blocks from where I work, in a neighborhood Linda would probably consider beneath her now. I have no idea what to expect, but I know I have to try. Maybe, just maybe, I'll finally find the family connection I've been missing all these years. I'll update once I've met them. I have a feeling this might be the beginning of something important. Something is telling me that meeting my grandparents could change everything, not just for my current situation, but for my entire future. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I can't believe how much has changed. After my shift at the cafe that day, I found myself standing in front of a small blue house with a well-tended garden. My heart was pounding as I walked up the path to my grandparents' house, each step feeling heavier than the last. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the neatly trimmed lawn. I raised my hand to knock, and the door opened to reveal an elderly couple, my grandparents. The woman had her gray hair tied back in a neat bun, wearing a floral apron dusted with flour, while the man wore wire-rimmed glasses and a kind smile. They looked at me with confusion until I spoke, Hi, I'm Audrey Matthews. I think you're my grandparents. Their jaws dropped simultaneously. Oh my God, Frank, my grandmother said, putting her hand to her mouth. It's really her. You look just like your mother did at your age. They invited me in, and suddenly I was sitting in their cozy living room, drinking tea from delicate cups while they couldn't stop staring at me. The walls were lined with photographs, decades of family history I'd never known about. Among them, I spotted pictures of my mom as a teenager, wearing the same shy smile I'd seen in my own reflection countless times. That first visit turned into many more. I'd tell Linda and Robert the first was working extra shifts at the cafe, but instead, I'd spend hours with my grandparents, bringing them pastries and cookies from work. They were wonderful listeners, genuinely interested in everything about my life. When I told them about my AP classes, they asked detailed questions about what I was learning. When I mentioned my college applications, they offered to help review my essays. At school, things continued to intensify. One morning, I received a thick envelope from Princeton. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. Full academic scholarship. I rushed to show my grandparents before going home, and their reaction was everything I'd ever wanted from a family. Grandma actually cried, while Grandpa kept saying, "I knew you had it in you, kiddo." When I finally told Linda and Robert about Princeton, their response was exactly what I'd expected. "That's nice, dear," Linda said distractedly, before turning to Ashley. "Honey, have you decided which state school you're applying to?" Ashley sniffed and declared she was taking a gap year to find herself through travel and self-discovery. Within minutes, they were discussing potential destinations for Ashley's gap year, my acceptance completely forgotten. At work, I was promoted to shift supervisor after preventing a potential disaster during a health inspection. My coworkers threw me a small celebration, complete with a homemade cake and a card they'd all signed. Sarah, my manager, pulled me aside and said, "You're going places, kid. Don't let anyone tell you different." It meant more than any praise I'd ever received at home. Yesterday, everything changed again. After closing the cafe, I went to my grandparents' house as usual. They seemed nervous, exchanging glances throughout our conversation. Finally, Grandpa cleared his throat and said, "Audrey, we need to tell you something." What they revealed next floored me. It turns out they're not the embarrassingly poor relatives Linda had always described. After Mom cut ties with them, they'd invested their modest savings in several tech startups. Those investments had paid off spectacularly, but they'd chosen to keep living simply in their familiar home. "Your mother left us because she felt we were too poor, too beneath her," Grandpa explained, shaking his head. "The irony is, we're probably wealthier than she is now. We just don't feel the need to show it off. We've been waiting for the right moment to help you," Grandma added, "and with graduation coming up, this seems perfect." I'm still processing everything they told me. There's more to share, but I need to be careful about my next steps. Graduation is in 2 weeks, and Linda has been dropping hints about some big family celebration, for Ashley, of course. She's already booked a fancy restaurant and invited all their friends to celebrate Ashley's academic journey. I'll update again after graduation. My grandparents mentioned they have something planned, and the way they smiled when they said it makes me think it's going to be significant. Something tells me it's going to be a day no one in this family will forget. Update 2, the graduation ceremony went exactly as you might expect. When they called my name as valedictorian, my stepparents barely clapped. But when Ashley walked across the stage, they hooted and hollered like she'd just won an Olympic medal. Then came the bombshell the next morning at breakfast. "Girls, we have exciting news," Linda announced, practically bouncing in her seat. "We're celebrating graduation in Hawaii." My heart lifted for a moment, despite everything. But I should have known better. "Honey," Linda turned to me, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, "we only got 3 tickets, for us and Ashley. You understand, right? Someone needs to watch the house, and you have your job at the cafe." Ashley didn't even try to hide her smirk as she stirred her orange juice. "Don't worry, sis," she said with exaggerated sweetness, "I'll send you lots of pictures of me living my best life on the beach." The next morning, I watched from our front door as they loaded their expensive luggage into the taxi. Ashley turned back, waving with dramatic enthusiasm. "I'll make sure to send you beautiful photos from Hawaii." As soon as the taxi disappeared around the corner, I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called my grandparents. The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over when I heard Grandma's voice. They went to Hawaii without me. They just left me here like I'm nothing." "Oh sweetheart," Grandma's voice was soft but firm. "Come over right now. We'll have our own graduation celebration." I drove to their house, still wiping away tears as I turned onto their street. That's when I noticed something unusual, a brand new Mercedes C-Class sedan parked in their driveway, gleaming in the summer sun. It looked completely out of place next to their modest home. "Whose car is that?" I asked as I walked up to their front porch. Grandpa's eyes twinkled as he held up a set of keys. "Yours. Happy graduation, Audrey." I stood there, mouth open, sure I'd misheard him. They'd been planning this surprise for weeks, they explained, waiting for the right moment. We spent the afternoon together, celebrating with a beautiful homemade graduation lunch. The table was set with their best china, and a "Congratulations Graduate" banner hung across the dining room. 2 weeks crawled by. Each evening, my phone would buzz with another notification: Ashley posing on different beaches, dining at expensive restaurants, or lounging by infinity pools. Each photo was accompanied by increasingly obnoxious captions: "Living my best life while someone serves coffee." Then came the day of their return. I was in the living room, pretending to read a book while watching through the window. The taxi pulled up, and I couldn't help but smile as I saw their reactions unfold in slow motion. Mom noticed first. She stopped so abruptly that Ashley walked right into her, dropping her designer beach bag onto the concrete driveway. Dad, struggling with their expensive matching luggage set, nearly tripped over them both. "What is that?" Linda's voice carried through the front window, high-pitched and sharp. She was pointing at the Mercedes as if it might bite her, her perfectly manicured finger trembling slightly. I took my time walking to the front door, enjoying every second of their confusion. When I stepped onto the porch, they all turned to stare at me like they were seeing a ghost. "Whose car is that?" Dad demanded, his face reddening from both the Hawaiian sun and shock. I twirled the keys around my finger the way Ashley always did with her designer purse straps when she was showing off. "Mine." Ashley let out a bark of laughter, but I could hear the uncertainty in it. "Yeah, right, like you could afford that on your waitress salary." "Actually," I said, savoring each word, "it was a graduation gift from Grandma and Grandpa." The color drained from Linda's face so fast I thought she might faint. "What?" "You know, your parents. The ones you were too embarrassed to talk to because they were too poor? Those grandparents." Dad turned to Linda so fast I thought he might get whiplash. "Linda, call your parents right now." Mom's hand shook as she pulled out her phone. She didn't even bother with pleasantries when my grandmother answered. "Where did you get the money for that car?" she demanded. I could hear Grandma's voice through the phone, calm and slightly amused. "Oh, hello to you too, dear. Enjoying your expensive vacation?" The next few minutes were chaos. Family secrets came tumbling out into the open, and nothing would ever be the same. I'll update again soon, there's still more to this story, and the best part is yet to come. Update 3, those last few weeks of summer at my grandparents' house were the happiest I'd ever experienced. Every morning, I'd wake up to the smell of Grandma's coffee and the sound of Grandpa humming as he read the newspaper. No walking on eggshells, no competing for attention, no feeling like an unwanted shadow, just peace. Moving to Princeton was bittersweet. I hugged my grandparents goodbye, promising to call every day, and set off in my Mercedes with everything I owned. The drive to New Jersey felt like crossing a boundary between my old life and my new one. My grandparents had found me a beautiful little apartment just 10 minutes from campus, nothing flashy, but worlds better than any dorm room. Hardwood floors, big windows, and even a small balcony where I could study. They insisted on paying the rent despite my protests. I still wanted some independence though, so I got a part-time job at a local coffee shop. The irony wasn't lost on me, still serving coffee, but this time by choice, not necessity. My coworkers were mostly other students, and for the first time in my life, I found myself making real friends. The first week of classes was overwhelming in the best possible way. Instead of being the unwanted extra, I was just another freshman finding her way. My professors actually seemed interested in what I had to say, and my classmates invited me to study groups without any hidden agendas or comparisons to someone else. One Sunday afternoon about a month into the semester, Grandma called with some interesting news. "Your parents showed up at our door yesterday," she said. My heart skipped a beat. What did they want? Oh, the usual. Linda was all smiles and fake apologies, asking about our financial situation and hinting about Ashley's upcoming birthday. Your father kept looking around the house, probably trying to guess our net worth. What did you tell them? Grandpa's voice joined in on the line. We told them that we'd already decided what to do with our money, it's all going to you. You should have seen Linda's face when we mentioned the trust fund we've set up for your graduate studies. I could picture their faces. How did they take that? Let's just say Linda's smile didn't look so genuine after that, Grandma chuckled. We asked them not to come back. Oh, and Ashley had the nerve to send us a wish list of luxury cars she'd accept as a birthday gift. Can you believe it? That evening, I blocked their numbers and all their social media accounts, Ashley's too. I knew what would come next, sudden declarations of love and regret, offers to start fresh as a family. But I didn't need their kind of family anymore. The following week, Linda tried a different approach. She somehow got my new address, probably from snooping through my grandparents' mail, and sent a lengthy letter. It was full of excuses about how they had never meant to hurt me and how they'd love to be a real family again. The most telling part was the PS asking if I could put in a good word with my grandparents about Ashley's birthday. I took the letter to my balcony, tore it into tiny pieces, and let the wind carry them away. Then I called my grandparents and spent an hour helping Grandma plan her garden for next spring. That's what real family feels like, no conditions, no comparisons, just love. Now, sitting in my constitutional law class, taking notes and actually enjoying the complexity of the material, I sometimes think about that little girl who used to pray for her parents' love. I wish I could tell her that she'd find something better, not just love, but respect, support, and the freedom to be herself. My roommate Emma has become my closest friend here. She comes from a big, loving family in Massachusetts, and they've practically adopted me. Last weekend, they invited me to their family beach house for Thanksgiving break. Emma's mom hugged me and said, "There's always room for one more at our table." I nearly cried. My phone buzzes quietly in my pocket, probably my study group confirming our meeting at the library later. Or maybe it's Jake, that cute guy from my psychology class who keeps asking to get coffee, not at my cafe, thankfully. We've been studying together lately, and he doesn't care that I used to be a barista or that my family situation is complicated. It's such a normal life now. No drama, no constant comparisons, no feeling like I'm not enough. Just me, my studies, my friends, and my future stretching out ahead of me, full of possibilities. I've started looking into law schools. Grandpa thinks I'd make a great attorney, and for once, I feel like I can dream as big as I want. I don't think I'll be posting any more updates. This chapter of my life is closed, and I'm ready to write a new one, this time on my own terms. I've learned that sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into, and that's okay. Thanks for following my journey, everyone. Your support has meant more than you know. Remember, if you're in a similar situation, don't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. The right people will love you for exactly who you are.